Your attitude determines your success. You need your daily nourishment for wisdom, success, personal growth, positivity, and confidence in order to maintain a badass attitude, like this one. Turn up your energy with Wednesday Wisdom. Here again is Kelly Orchard.
Oh, hey, badass. How you doing? I know, it never gets old, does it, being called badass? I think that's why you keep coming back. Hello, everybody. I'm Kelly Orchard, the Badass Certifier. Thank you so much for joining me once again for this Wednesday Wisdom as we hop on the bus to Badassville. Today, we're going to cover the letter A in the B.A.D.A.S. acronym. That's right. B.A.D.A.S. is an acronym. And last month, we went through the letter B, which stands for be yourself. And, you know, how can you be yourself if you don't really know yourself? So we spent every Wednesday Wisdom kind of going through the letter B in the B.A.D.A.S. acronym. So this month of February, we're going through the letter A in B.A.D.A.S., which stands for your attitude. Attitude is everything, and you need a positive one if you're going to be successfully badass. So here we go. I'm certifying badasses one podcast at a time. And so for this Wednesday Wisdom, I've got some skills and drills for you, you certified badass. You know, attitude and mindfulness in business and relationships is really what's going to help you succeed at this time. When we recognize that sometimes the negativity in our lives is so strong that we need to learn how to respond differently, it's time to make a shift. The program that I have to teach you how to flip the format on negativity to be more positive, which improves your mindset and builds your confidence and gives you just the attitude adjustment you need to rediscover your badass self and achieve the success you imagine, whatever your vision of success is. I have an extension course, and I give you actionable tools that you can use right away to develop and maintain a positive attitude, even when you hit a bumpy road. And at the end of the podcast, I'll give you some more information about it. Carl Jung, known as the founder of analytical psychology, said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." That's really huge, isn't it? All right. So your actions have an impact on your outcome. It won't matter what your personality type is or your ability to diagnose or judge somebody else on theirs, or if you aren't growing from the knowledge that you've just learned. It won't matter if you know what your strengths are if you're not implementing them in your daily practices. That's why the next letter in badass is A, because A stands for attitude. You need a positive one to determine your success. So let's discover how attitude is everything and to start your day and maintain and manage a positive attitude. It's time to amplify. All right, so are you open to change the way you look about things? Are you open to seek new opportunities? Are you willing to make mistakes? You've learned about mindfulness and a little bit about healthy emotions, and we're going to continue to cover that during the podcast. You'll learn to focus on your strengths, which will allow you to be more creative and loving toward others and yourselves. We talked a little bit about that last month. And part of maintaining a positive attitude is the ability to visualize your growth. So I teach you some visualization techniques also, because you got to know that a badass is mindful of their surroundings, and a badass has a positive mindset. A badass has a plan. So what is the direct opposite of fear? Love. This is February. It is the month of love, and it is Heart Month, and I'm going to share a little bit about that with you in a bit too. So in order to tune out negative thoughts that accompany fear, we must decide to tune in to a new rhythm. That's why I love to use music and build a badass soundtrack. It helps you tune in to a whole new rhythm. Through my studies, I learned how the mind, body, and spirit affect everything in life. I also learned that when they are in cooperation, things really improve. So that's why the balance is so important. Mind, body, and spirit. If you're only focusing on one of those right now, you're not going to be in balance. You kind of have to get focused on all three, but keep that balanced as well. And just remember, falling down doesn't make you a failure. Staying down does. So when we talked about, let's just kind of review what we talked a little bit about last month as well, that there are two primary emotions, love and fear. Love is the opposite of fear. So we are learning to flip the format on our fear. Fear is a negative emotion, while love is a positive emotion. Fear is what sabotages your success. Love is what builds your success. So life responds most rapidly and accurately to love and compassion. When you're looking elsewhere for what you want, for validation of who you are and for meaning of life, you don't experience your true self. Practicing mindfulness will help you be more aware of where you are and where you're going based on where you truly want to go. So let's say that you conclude and accept that there are only two primary emotions, fear and love, and you understand that you can't feel both at the same time. So picture each emotion as if they are on two separate sides of a spectrum. For just a quick review, I go over this much more in depth in my program. But it's like, so what are your fears? Are you afraid of losing your career or your job? What about your finances? What about your family or your home, relationships? Maybe you've got some health issues. So when we examine the emotions based on fear, and then how we can flip them and reveal that living in fear prevents us from growth and everything we long for, you can participate in the program and walk through an exercise and learn to flip how you can flip over the negative emotions and look for things in the positive. So what is that? What does that look like? So for example, I go through another exercise where, okay, for example, the emotions based on fear would be anger. Okay, so what is that when we flip it over? The opposite of anger would be joy. So what about anxiety? Anxiety is definitely a negative emotion. So what would be the opposite of being anxious? How about being content, right? What is the opposite of depression? All right, so what do you feel when you're depressed? Maybe a little hopeless? Okay, so then the flip side of depression would be hopefulness, right? And then self-sabotage. I mean, that's what you're here for, right? You don't want to self-sabotage your career, your life, your relationship, your badassery. So what's the opposite of self-sabotage? Success, right? When you practice positivity, you flip the negativity because negativity only increases more negativity. It takes effort to flip your mindset and adjust your attitude from negative to positive, but that's just it. Just effort. It's not hard work. It just takes effort. Fear and negativity block your ability to tap into your badassery, period. Many people are trapped by fear and struggling to find a way out. To push out the fear and negativity, you have to change your own frequency. The status quo isn't going to promote growth. And this is how I've always done it is detrimental to your growth and essentially to being badass. So if you want to increase your confidence and your happiness, you've got to focus your energy on creating a positively healthy environment in your 4 domains of life: work, home, private life, and community. Simple shifts in the way you think can make all the difference in your success. Now, I've gone over this in my B.A.D.A.S.S certification class and in my program. It is one of the first things that I focus on is let's kind of look at all of the areas of your life that you're involved in, those 4 domains. All right. And that's your work life, your home life, your private life, and your community. So your attitude is everything, and you've got to reduce the stress and anxiety. There's tremendous disruption in life today. You don't even need me to say any more about it. You care about your family and your loved ones and your people, but you can't be everywhere. You're busy too. You're busy, they're busy, you're stressed, they're stressed. Maybe you're working too many hours and feeling guilty that you're not enjoying your private time and your family life as much as you want. Maybe there's so many distractions and interruptions that it's challenging to get everything done. Your insecurity, negativity, and self-sabotaging fears have far more reaching damage to your life than you realize. So if you stop to think about yourself and what causes you to feel like a failure, remember the saying, like I said earlier, falling down doesn't make you a failure. It's the staying down that does. So get out there and fail. The solution is to flip the fear. Be badass. Go ahead and fail. Listen, let's talk a little bit about the benefits of love and positivity. Practicing positivity, one of the lessons that my heart crisis taught me and the subsequent reinvention of my life and career was, if the decision doesn't give me peace, I don't do it anymore. More often than not, we fail to look at the bigger picture when we can only see what's in front of us right now. Will I have enough money to pay the rent? Will my health improve? Will my kids behave? Will I meet my partner soon? When will it be my turn to get a break? Negativity consumed me during the trials of my health problems. I wrote in detail in my first book, Heart Lessons, how ironic it is that I look back and acknowledge a time that I lost my hope of being a successful writer. My hope of being a dancer and choreographer was history, and I concluded that my hopes and dreams had to be modified. When you feel so low, there are days where all you can do is hope for peace. I prayed for joy and happiness and good health. I prayed for new hopes and dreams that would allow me to love something, anything to give me a reason to be happy. One little thing. And then out of the mouths of babes. One Saturday morning, my teenage son, who was 15 years old at the time, and I were running errands in my Mustang. Yes, we were. As I complained about my health and financial situation, he reached over and turned off the radio and told me an experience he'd had recently. He said he was praying, something he hadn't done in a while but felt he needed to. He began praying for me, and he said everything just stopped. My prayer, my thoughts, all was quiet. And then it was as if it was my own voice. God spoke to me and told me that if you don't change your attitude towards this, you'll never get better. He went on to tell me that I'd changed since all of this heart crisis started. He knows I've been through a lot, and it's time to stop the negativity and do something. Here was my son, loving me enough to encourage me to do something positive. Whatever it was, I needed to step out on faith and look for a job or write my book or stop moping around because it was not doing me any good. If you don't do it for yourself, please do it for me, he pleaded. These sweet words from my son were so sincere, and I know it was from the heart. I know that for the sake of those who loved me, I had to begin working through that struggle. I needed to keep pushing forward and have faith that God's plan was working. Not romantic love, but self-love. As I began working on picking up the pieces of my broken life, the poor health, the future job search, the failing finances, or the possibility of further education, I started noticing significant changes to my attitude and mindset. As I focused on something I could look forward to, the pain of where I was began to diminish. What kind of love do you have in your life to build upon? For me, it was my kids that provided positive energy for me to heal. Time spent with those important to me is the greatest gift of all. Don't be afraid to tell someone how much the time they spent with you meant. It may be something as ordinary as an outing with a friend or your employees or a boss or a neighbor. The love of friends and family is essential for helping you cope with the battles in life. Everybody struggles with something. You're not alone. And I have learned that not only is it pretty badass to have love and support of friends and family, but badasses support each other too. If you don't have any, get some. Reach out. There are many ways to meet people that share your interests. You could join a club that does things interesting to you. Church groups are great for support and faith. There's business and networking meetups, even with limitations. There's your local chamber of commerce. You can volunteer for charity or a cause or a need that you're passionate about. You could also take up some subjects that interest you, like cooking, computer, marketing, accounting, underwater basket weaving. Doesn't really matter as long as you're interested. Changing up the activity or two will promote positive outcomes for you and helps build confidence, which shifts your attitude. And that's badass. So one of the things I learned in the process was to forgive myself for past mistakes. That alone causes a reduction in anxiety and stress. Make mistakes. Fail often. Forgive yourself. And then get back up. That's from Lessons in Love, which is the opposite of fear. Coming up on the Successful Badassery podcast on the Wednesday Wisdom, something about HeartMath and Neuroscience. Yep, let's all be intellectual badasses together.
Now you know it. A successful attitude changes when it chooses love over fear. It becomes Badass.
All right, back again with Wednesday Wisdom. I'm Kelly Orchard, the Badass Certifier. You don't really need me to tell you that. I got Bobby to tell you that. So I wanted to introduce you to HeartMath. Now, HeartMath is a technique that I learned about, I became aware of when I was, finished up with grad school and I was working as an intern. And one of the reasons that I was especially attracted to this particular method was, well, the name alone, heart. And the reason that I became a therapist was because of my heart problems. So I recently, well, not really recently, I have become certified, and there's another word, to be able to be a HeartMath practitioner. So I have the certification. So what I'm going to read for you right now is I'm just going to give you the inside story about HeartMath. And so I'm not plagiarizing. I am admitting that I am actually reading a document from HeartMath that I can share with you. Just a little bit of it. I want to tell you about riding the wave. And because that's what this is all about, is about your emotions and your feelings and how you can get them under control. And a lot of times that's exactly what psychotherapy or psychiatry is all about, is helping you harness and get control and regulate your emotions. Your feelings are your feelings, but you don't want to explode all over everybody, right? And you really don't want to focus on the negative ones. So the word emotion, this is from HeartMath, can be defined as energy in motion. And emotion is a strong feeling, a feeling such as joy, sorrow, or anger that moves us. The experience of emotions makes life matter. It transforms our world from a series of events and facts into a living, breathing experience. For instance, you've had a rotten day, you come home and your dog is wildly wagging his whole body because he loves you no matter what. And just seeing him, you start to ease up on yourself and forget about your awful day. You may not always be aware of your deeper feelings and how these feelings are affecting your body, energy, thoughts, and relationships. You might notice tension or an upset stomach. Sometimes you might feel your heart pounding in your chest. In fact, one of the easiest ways that scientists observe how feelings affect our bodies is in the effects that they have on our heart rhythms. When emotions are strong, they can be detected in the changing pattern of our heart rhythms. When people are frustrated, scared, worried, angry, or upset, their heart rhythms are uneven and irregular. When these uneven, irregular heart rhythms are viewed on a computer screen, they look like jagged mountain peaks. Now, that's why this was so easy for me to adapt to, because I had just had a heart rhythm problem that had to have gotten controlled by, number one, lots of medication, number two, a pacemaker, and then I had to have 3 surgical procedures to rewire my heart. And I share that story in detail in my book, Heart Lessons, which is a prescriptive memoir. And I'm giving it away this month for National Heart Month. So you can grab it in the show notes. I've got two options for you, okay? You can either pick up the PDF absolutely free. I'll just email it to you right away, or you can purchase the book and I'll send you a physical copy of it and I'll even sign it. And that's up to you. And that's at the end of the podcast. It'll be in the show notes. But this is why the HeartMath method it resonated with me. Because basically when we are upset, and I'm going back to the document, the inside story of HeartMath. I don't want anyone to call me out for plagiarism. I'm acknowledging that I am reading a document, but I am certified. I have the certification, so I am permitted to use this information. Quote unquote, here we go, quote, "When we're upset, it's usually hard to think clearly. Making a wise choice is tough for anyone when they are emotionally upset. Have you ever said something to a friend in a moment of anger that you later regretted? However, when we're feeling confident and secure, feeling cared for, or appreciating someone or something, our heart rhythms are smooth and even, like the ones that you want to see. Scientists know that the heart and brain are connected, and that the smooth and even heart rhythms make it easier to think clearly and make better decisions." So did you know that in recent years, scientists have discovered that the heart has its own independent nervous system, a complex system referred to as the brain in the heart. And this system receives and relays information back to the brain in the head, creating a two-way communication between the heart and the brain. Now, when we learned about these brief interventions, about the breathing technique to shift your attitude from a negative attitude to a more positive attitude, I'm going to share with you the technique here, and this is going to be part of our skills. I'm just going to share it with you so that you can learn it. But the actual drill that I've come up with for this particular exercise is your badass soundtrack, and I'll share that with you later. Okay, but for now, this is just kind of an attitude breathing technique. So it's a skill that I want you to sort of learn. When you recognize the feeling or attitude, you want to change and identify a replacement attitude. So, for example, you have a negative attitude about something, a negative feeling towards something that you've got going on, and you want to change it to a positive one. You got to replace it with that. Okay, you could focus your attention on the area of the heart. And then imagine your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or chest area, breathing a little slower and deeper than usual. Then find an easy rhythm that's comfortable. As you continue heart-focused breathing, practice breathing in and increasing the feeling of your new replacement attitude. Now, a suggestion, if you can't find a replacement attitude, just breathe a feeling of calm or neutral through your heart area. This often helps draw to us the quality feelings that lift our attitudes and perceptions. And when you practice maintaining your new attitudes and perceptions as you move through the day and you go into new interactions. Now, I did this somehow not realizing that I was doing some sort of an actual therapy technique. My cardiologist used to ask me how did you keep your heart calm or calm yourself down after you were having these arrhythmias? And honestly, I just learned to kind of like communicate with my heart, and talk to it. And then, I was doing the HeartMath techniques without even realizing that I was doing it. All right. So we're coming up on the next thing. Okay. What can you do to flip the format on your negative thoughts and emotions? That's what's coming up on the podcast for Successful Badassery.
A podcast for Successful Badassery with Kelly Orchard.
All right, here I am again. So how can you change frequency and practice positivity? What can you do to flip the format on the negative thoughts and emotions? Well, I always say that music can change your attitude, but aside from your badass soundtrack, which you do learn how to do specifically in my badass certification class, but some of the other things that you can do is gratitude, journal writing, reading motivational books, things like that. I offer my Apple a Day books all the time for you, or the Apple a Day podcast. That's always very helpful. You can listen to podcasts, seminars, go to workshops and to increase positivity. So you're already doing that because here you are. You could spend time in nature and with friends. That's always a great one to flip the net format on negative thoughts and emotions. Or you could take a road trip. Nothing like seeing the open road, different cities, and scenery to make you feel alive. And then also it can all begin with a morning routine. Now, getting back to the music, and as we conclude the podcast for Successful Badassery for this Wednesday Wisdom, the first Wednesday of February, and it is National Heart Month, here's what I want to know. All right, so as you take that road trip, perhaps, maybe you're going to do it this weekend, what song might you choose to attach to a warm, happy memory to the positive emotions that you've experienced this past weekend in one of the other exercises? Shoot me an email and let me know. I'm starting a collection. All right, so what did you learn in today's podcast? You learned that music can totally change your attitude. We talked about lessons in love as a positive emotion, touch a little bit about HeartMath and how neuroscience can actually be applied to music. And then I gave you some tips for flipping the format on your negative emotions. Once again, I just wanted you to know February is National Heart Month. And of course, that's a big deal to me, okay? Because it's very near and dear to my heart. When my heart problems changed my heart, in more ways than one. And I have my book, Heart Lessons, that I wrote as a result of it. It's journal entries, so it's very personal, but how these psychological principles are applied to me. And it's very personal to me. And I hope you'll grab a free copy of it, because actually this month I'm giving it away absolutely free in a PDF. But if you want to purchase a physical copy, I also have a link that you can actually purchase the book if you want to have a physical copy in your hand, but the PDF is just as good. Links for both are in the show notes. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining me on Wednesday Wisdom. I'll be back again on Friday for more fruitful Fridays. See you later. Have a great day, badass.
Friday again, we turn up the energy. Tune in and tune up, along with how you can live a badass attitude.
Thanks for listening and getting one step closer to being licensed to be badass. Be sure to subscribe to continue on the bus to Badassville. Snag your Badass Habits ebook at licensedtobebadass.com. You can stay in the slow lane and get just enough tools for successful badassery, one podcast at a time. Or you can join the Badass Ambassador crew in the fast lane by checking your baggage with my Licensed to be Badass integrated program with videos, worksheets, and group coaching for motivation, mindset, and a fresh approach to living a fruitfully badass life.